guys, so today I'm going to be doing the Bookish Elements Tag. I was tagged in this by Kelly over at Bookish Kelly, so thanks for the tag. The first question is, how do you feel about foreshadowing or dropped hints? I think as long as it's not done too heavy-handedly, they're great. And it's like really fun on a reread to go back and be like, oh, I remember this now. My best example of this is the Dream Trader series by Wayne Thomas Batson. I am not going to tell you what it is, what the twist is, because if you know the twist, like on a reread, obviously it's great. This is something that's not revealed until like the last 5 pages of book 3 of the series. But also there's other twists throughout the series as well that are just really good. But yeah, this book series definitely does this really well. So if you want a good recommendation for foreshadowing, read that series. Let's see. Bookmarks. What do you use? How do you feel about bending the corner down? Okay, so there is one book series, the Alon book series that I've discussed before. That series comes with, like, when I bought them in person, and I got bookmarks because I bought them like at a fair thing, like homeschool fair convention thing. And so I got bookmarks with them. So I have actually always used bookmarks in that series. Literally every other book that I read, other than library books, I've used receipts with library books. Like the library receipt is what like the library receipt that like tells when the due date is, that I have stuck that in books before, which I think is actually really helpful. That way you're like, oh yeah, this is due this date. But yeah, other than that, with my own books, I dog ear. Yeah, I hear all the boos and gasps of shock and horror. I dog ear. I leave the book flipped upside down. Like, this is not a good book to show this example with because it's so thin. But like, I do this. I have every bad bookish habit that everyone else hates. I'll sometimes even stick, like, if I'm taking this book to read and I'm like this far in and I have another book that is like an extra, I will sometimes just do this and stick another book inside of it. Like, I will do stick my phone in it. I will do all of the worst bookish habits probably that everyone has heard of. Yeah. Forgotten bookmarks. Have you ever found something strange in a book? Funny you should mention that, because I was literally just filming a video of a book that I bought secondhand, like a haul that I posted on Friday. And I found a to-do list in there. Somebody else's to-do list. So, there we go. That's one. That's a strange one. Inscriptions and annotations. How do you feel about writing in a book? How do you annotate if you do? Obviously, I mean, if I buy a book secondhand and somebody was just recording their thoughts, that's fine. As long as they're not, obscuring the words or anything. I don't really do it much, unless it was school books. I did in school books, like I highlighted lots of stuff in my school books. Yeah. So I don't really annotate at all. Introductions and footnotes. Do you read them or avoid? Okay, it depends. If I'm reading Wingfeather, I am reading footnotes, because the footnotes in Wingfeather are funny. If I am reading, like, for example, Planet Narnia by Michael Ward, which I read. When I read that, I had my bookmark, or had a bookmark or a pencil or something, or just a finger in the footnotes page, so that I could flip over there and see if it was relevant. Because a lot of times those footnotes were just citations, and I'm not obviously sitting there and reading a citation. I'm not going to go look up where you got this quote from. I trust that you cited it correctly. But yeah, so if I'm just reading a book and all that the citations are just like, or all that the footnotes are just citations or definitions of words or something, I'm not going to probably read most of those unless I need the definition of the word. Like, if I'm reading and it has definitions and I need it, I'll go read it. But usually I don't need those. So, introductions. I have actually started giving myself permission to skip introductions, especially like to classics and stuff, obviously. Because I guess most modern books don't really have introductions that are skippable. I used to not, but yeah, now I just don't want to read introductions. Like, a lot of times they do spoil things, which, yes, I do believe is possible. If you saw, Anne from In Search of Wonder did a video a few weeks ago about are spoilers a thing? And I strongly disagreed with most of her takes. And I actually don't read introductions now a lot of the time because they do spoil things. Or, like, they're written by scholars, and modern day scholars are just generally, like, not good people. And they don't... I have just... As someone who has a master's degree in literature, let's just say I was not impressed by the caliber of most of the scholars that I read. So, probably going to be skipping most introductions. Accessories. Do you use bookish accessories like a clip-on reading light, book sleeve, annotation materials, book stand, etc.? No, I don't. I have a book sleeve. I've never really used it all that. I think I used it once. I used to have a clip-on reading light when I was a kid and could read in the car easier, but now I get sick, so I don't. And I have a phone, so I usually just spend my time on my phone if I'm going to be risking getting car sick. I also have, like, a thing that... I don't know where it is now, but I'll see if I can maybe find a picture of it online and pop it in here. Wait, hang on. It's like a thing that you can put around your book and keep the pages open and keep it from falling closed. It can, however, mess up your pages, so just be careful with it and don't leave books in it for too long if you do use one of those. Let's see. Art and illustrations, but I don't really use that anymore, so... Art and illustrations. How do cover art and illustrations affect your reading experience? I love illustrations. Like, I recently read the American Girl books, and those all have illustrations, and they're gorgeous. But, like, I read, see if I can find what the page is. I recently read A Ranger's Guide to Glipwood Forest by Andrew Peterson. And he's got these gorgeous illustrations that his son did, like his young son Aiden did illustrations for does illustrations for a lot of his books, and they're gorgeous. So yeah, illustrations are great. Cover art, I think part of this question is like, does this affect how you see the characters? And it does. Like, I will picture them as the person that is on the cover of the book. So please publishers, please make sure that the cover art matches the way the main character is described in the book. Yes, this will involve you or the artist actually reading it, but you should be anyway, so, you know. Format. Which format of books do you prefer? Hardback, paperback, audio, or digital? Do you do things different things for different situations? Currently, I read mostly in audio, but that's just because that is the most... Like, I listen to a lot of YouTube videos or podcasts while I'm doing things, and so it's easy to just swap that out for an audiobook. See. I do read some digital, but I don't prefer it. I have some hardbacks, but my favorite is paperback. My most read is audiobook, but my favorite is paperback because nothing beats the feel of a good book in your hand. Do you do different things for different situations? Not necessarily, although I will say, because I started reading the genre of romantic suspense by listening to it for the most part. Okay, my first romantic suspense book, like in the more recent era of my life, was the Terry Blackstock book, If I Run, which I read physically. But then, my library in Libby, they had the books, like 2 and 3, in ebook, but then they also had them in, but there was a wait. And then the audiobook would come in, immediately. So I was like, well, I'll just give them a try in audiobook. And I love those. So to me, romantic suspense is an audiobook genre, because after I read that Terry Blackstock series, I got into Lynette Eason. Again, I read one of her books physically, and then I listened to all of the others audio. I read one of them physically. The first series I read was the Life Flight series. I read Life Flight physically. Second and third books I listened to as audiobooks, and the fourth one I read as an ebook. Pretty much, and I read one Terry Blackstock book physically. Pretty much one other Terry Blackstock book physically. Pretty much every other romantic suspense, except for, there's been a few that I've read ebook, but most of them that I have read, I have actually listened to. So in my head, romantic suspense is just an audiobook genre, which makes sense because I never really read it as a kid too much. Obviously, I never read romantic suspense as a kid. That's not a kid genre. But suspense even, I didn't really read as a kid too much. Really? I don't know. Did I? I'm not sure. Kind of blurring the line there. But I love Sue Thomas, FBI, the TV show. And so, like, a format in which I am using my ears to take part in the story makes sense to me. That could be what I'm correlating there. So, okay, that is the end of this tag. Who am I gonna tag? I will tag Lucy over at the Lucy Chronicles, and Reese over at the Writing Songbird, and I will tag Cheryl over at Candlewick Library. Let's see. Thank you so much for watching. Let's see if we can. I forgot to get one to ask you guys. Why don't you answer in the comments what your favorite format of book is, and do you do different ones for different situations? And please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.